Oh, right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another 1080 LinkedIn Live. I am delighted to be joined by two fabulous people today. I've given them a really good build up, so it's going to be a good session. So perhaps, Trevor, could you introduce yourself first of all to everybody?
Yes, I'm I'm Trevor. I'm an executive coach with 1080. I'm a recovering journalist, a recovering PR person. I've been running my own consultancy for some years, and I'm delighted to be in the last 5 or 6 years to have been an executive coach with 1080. I'm also a forthcoming author. I'm writing a book called The Confidence Shift, taking emerging leaders from self-doubt to self-belief.
Fantastic, thank you. And Ushalai, tell us a bit about yourself as well, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Dean. Hello, everyone. My name is Ushalai Chabuke. I am an executive leadership and personal growth coach, doing this since 2015. But when people ask me, I say I was a coach all my life. My coaching is backed with two great professions I had. One is finance. I was down in Wall Street for 15 years, and I had a nursing degree. I'm a registered nurse for 5 years, which these two gives me opportunity to serve my clients with great care and business acumen. I am so happy to be here.
Thank you very much. The one thing that all of us do share in common, apart from being coaches, is the fact that at some point in our careers, we've been made redundant. So it puts us in a really good space to be able to talk about what that means to people. And if I just bring up the first of my questions here is, really, I want us to explore the whole resilience and confidence side of things. We're going to be giving fuel for Trevor's book, I'm sure, when we talk about confidence. So there's an early plug for Trevor. So what does resilience mean in context to career setbacks like redundancy? Trevor, perhaps we'll go straight to you on that one.
Yeah, I was only going to give one plug to my book, but now since you've helped me along, that's fantastic. But that's it. That's all I'm saying about it. I mean, resilience isn't really about pretending everything's fine, or as we say in Britain, having a stiff upper lip, about things. It's about how we recover. And in the context of redundancy, I'd say, or any career setback, it's about the ability to move through disruption, if you like, and regain a sort of sense of equilibrium. So, we'll all be familiar with things like, or I think many of us will be familiar with Kubler-Ross change curves and the emotions, and it doesn't mean about resilience is not about skipping those feelings. It's about navigating through them. So that's what I would say as my sort of opening gambit, if you like.
Okay, brilliant. Ushalai, what about you? What's your thoughts on that?
Loved what you shared. Absolutely, Trevor. So I think in this context, it is allowing yourself to feel and then move forward with intention, because redundancy could be quite shaking to our self of sense. And I think it is extremely important to remember who we are and not remember the job title we hold. So it is really regaining clarity, confidence, and identity after that disruption.
I've written down moving forwards with intention, because I'm going to be using that expression in some of my coaching sessions with people. And I think you're both absolutely right about it's about how we feel, and it's our reaction to how we feel and how we come to terms. And Trevor, you mentioned Kubler-Ross. How do we move through to some semblance of acceptance so that we can actually move forwards? I'm guessing for a lot of people, what happens is, we mentioned that confidence word, is actually our confidence. That's one of the things that takes a knock. So even if we've accepted what has happened, we're probably not at our most confidence best. So Ushalai, how do we rebuild confidence after redundancy? How can you help me if it was me?
I love that word, confidence. So I think confidence returns because you were confident when you were at work, right? So confidence returns when you reconnect with your strengths values and past successes, and knowing again who you are as an individual. How can you rebuild that? Of course, after the redundancy, now we have this time, but what do we do with that? Creating structure for the routines we have, the goals, and those small victories we have. Now, confidence actually comes back through actions we are taking. That's what I would like to share in terms of confidence.
Okay, brilliant. Trevor.
I love that sort of reconnection sort of emphasis there, and the small actions. I mean, and also I think alongside the small actions, it's also it gives you a chance to regain some confidence by noticing what is still working in your life at that time. It could be some things that you have already accomplished. It gives you a chance to take stock. Whether even if they seemed like small achievements in the course of your work, actually there might be things that you can reframe or repurpose, for the future that might take on greater significance. Your confidence shouldn't disappear when the job title disappears, because you've already achieved quite a lot. So there's a sort of reframing, and then there's a mindset about what do I want to learn from this period, where the word curiosity comes in sort of as the sort of follow-up to confidence. So and that movement, I think, from the going through the stages of acceptance, which might take a short time or it might take a while, that acceptance and then the movement towards curiosity, well, what can I do this time, I think changes everything at that point.
Brilliant. I think it's people, it's confidence, it's identity, it's feeling like they've lost their identity, but actually you are still who you were before. It's I don't want this to sound condescending, because I know that a lot of people get really, really upset, angry. There's a whole cocktail of emotions about redundancy, but it is a bump in the road. And I think for most people, when they have gone through that, they look back and they recognize it was a bump in the road, and it can be quite life-changing and defining, but in a positive way. We've had a comment come in from Alison, who says, I believe it's also about adaptability and flexibility and resourcefulness in times of change.
Yes.
Alison's always very wise on these things. And, absolutely right. And so it is about our reaction, isn't it? So I guess,
by the way, just on that, is that I think we should probably try and totally agree with Alison. And in addition, I'd say that it's not like a set timeline, like you should be dealing with this by now, or you should be feeling better by now. I think it depends on your personal pace of acceptance and moving on. It's not about perfection or brushing it off. But the key is to understand the journey you're going on, from reaction in the first place to reflection, and then moving on to just taking one step at a time. There's no set timetable and it's different for lots of people. So
it's like anything like that, isn't it? It's Kubler-Ross comes from the grief curve, and grief is an individual calculation, isn't it? And so coming to terms with that, is perhaps about not putting pressure on ourselves to deal with it too quickly. We've got to understand what it means to us. Ushalai, I cut you off. You were just about to jump in with something amazing.
Because I just wanted to mention this. So when I'm hearing you talking, it is also, Trevor talked about what's in your control, right? It's the mindset we have the control over, and understanding that treating this redundancy as a business decision. It's not a personal failure. It's just a business decision.
Yeah. And I think one of the questions I always think about when faced with any sort of setback is, okay, to try and regain an element of control is, well, what can I do? What can I influence? I can't change their decision. I can't change their mind. So what can I do? I guess for a lot of people, and I'm going to bring this next question onto the screen, is it's about it's not just about habit and routine, it's about staying visible and connected with people. I'm curious to know, and Ursula, I'll come to you on this one first, is what's the importance of staying visible and connected, and what can we do to make sure that happens, do you think?
In this situation, staying connected is the most important activity we can do. Looking at visibility as a connection to people and opportunities rather than self-promotion. So I always talk about this creating meaningful connections, because especially with the redundancy now, there's this networking show up for people, and people usually don't feel comfortable around the word of networking. So how can we actually stay connected with people with genuine curiosity and let them know who we are, what we have done, so they can actually help us moving forward. So also in here, what is important, reframing that how we are in this state right now, saying my role was eliminated and now I'm excited to see how I can serve in different places. I am excited about that.
Okay, brilliant. Trevor, I could see you were nodding in agreement there as we were going along. So that's always a good sign, isn't it?
Because I was agreeing. And and this point about the role being made redundant, not you being made redundant, I think is an absolutely vital one. And when you're talking about it, as you said, that you talk about my role has been made redundant, it's a chance to reflect, refocus on what I'm doing is brilliant. So in terms of what that means in sort of a more practical sense, is that if you're reaching out with intention, if you like, who would you reach out to? So you could reach out to past colleagues, mentors, people in your network, people who you are bringing into your network. You've got an opportunity to do this now, and when you are networking, it's not kind of networking to overtly say give us a job. It's actually to share your story of what it is you're exploring, what you're thinking about, and also to be genuinely curious about the person that you're talking to, because I think nothing is better to the other person than to be genuinely curious about what they are feeling and what they are thinking, and then they open up and they have these conversations, which ultimately will prove probably far more valuable to you to understand the market in which you're operating and the people who are operating in it.
Brilliant.
I just want to add one more thing here. When you said, Trevor, talking about yourself. So when we started first, what is resilience? Being resilience. Resilience is also learning from the situation. And what a great opportunity to learn right now how to genuinely connected with people, because we will always need that. It's not only this time, we always need to connect with people in a genuine way. So whenever we need something, sometimes we may not even need to ask. They'll come to us and offer opportunities to us.
Yeah, I think Michael Moran, one of the founders of 1080, often talks about investing in your network, and for me, sometimes it's about investing in your network at times where perhaps you are not in need of reciprocation from it, but actually by being supportive and encouraging and helping other people at those moments where you then need some support and help, you've got a really good network established of people that will be empathetic if that's what you need at that moment, or if you've got people that will challenge you in a positive way, if that's what you need. So I think it's really important that, to actually use that and make those reconnections in some instances. We've been getting a few comments in while we've been talking. Liz, this is a big one. Liz has said, visibility keeps opportunities coming your way and reminds others of your skills and value. Always sage like Liz is, isn't she? For me, it's not just about job search, it's about maintaining confidence and a sense of belonging. So it's that connection that we're talking about again. And Brendan, age and length of service can be huge factors too. So finding the right support for a redundant individual is highly important, and to pace their experience. So we're getting great thing is we're getting people engaging with the subject, and I think it is it's a strong subject that has a lot of resonance with a lot of people, and especially in the current socio-economic environment that we find ourselves.
Can I just add one thing? Is that so I've had two experiences of redundancy. One was actually quite happy in that I was about to resign anyway, and I didn't tell them that. I hope they're not watching. And it's many years ago. Yeah, of course, thank you. And then the other one was actually more, you know, I think it's like you were using the word shaken, you know, that you can be shaken, it can shake your confidence. And I think there is a temptation sometimes around visibility and connection, or lack of connection, that when your confidence dips, that sometimes some people withdraw into themselves and say, I'm going to reinvent myself, I'm going to be going into this chrysalis, I'll come out the butterfly, but I don't want anybody to see me until then. And I think that you will probably, I just urge people to say that the visibility helps that process, that it helps that connection process that Liz was talking about in that context, because connection is what helps you become ready, if you like. So all of those conversations, all those experiences are things that add, rather than something you have to wait to be ready, because you will probably never be totally ready.
Well, I think the other side of that as well is that off air before we were starting, and this is not another plug for your book, but we were talking about how you manifest something happening by the more that you talk about something, the more real it becomes. So actually talking to other people about redundancy can help reinforce it to yourself that is the state. And by talking, it can be quite a cathartic process to talk about it, to accept it, to then start to think, okay, well, what's next? Which brings us on to the question I've put onto the screen, because we've already been talking about, well, networking, things like that, connections with people, visibility. What other recommendations can we make to people for the practical steps, if you like, for their career to go forwards? Or shall I'll come to you first on this one. I like to keep you guessing as to who I'm going to ask first. So
perfect. I love that. So when that happens, taking the time to reflect, reset, and re-energize, just feel it and re-energize yourself. Using the notice period wisely, right? Plan, not panic. Always remembering panic and creativity cannot live together. We can create when we're in a relaxed mode. So there's no panicking, relax. And in order to do that, of course, we need to build some uplifting habits. Could be journaling, learning new things, again, networking. I'm going to again cross that out. I'm going to say creating meaningful connections. So, and then making sure you're taking care of yourself, going out to take walks, getting some sun, because remember also, your mood is in your control. We can actually create the mood we want to be in. That's something that we have in control. Trevor said the mindset, when you mentioned what's in your control, focus on your control, and you mentioned mindset. So the mindset is something we have control over, and consistent small steps, remembering that momentum is everything. It comes before motivation. Momentum actually creates the motivation.
Okay,
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm very, I can't. but one thing I do want to pick up on is the creativity and panic. I think that you were talking about, they can't really go together. And I have a similar sort of view on that. Is that I think I frame it in terms of worrying and the impact that sort of worrying about things has on on creative thinking, if you like. You know, that if you, and there's you know, and there's some great anecdotes in books around this. I mean, Dale Carnegie wrote the classic about how to stop worrying and start living, where he was talking about somebody who had a problem, and the moment he stopped worrying about it, he then found the solutions to what he was going to. My way, and the way I talk to people about helping to get through that phase in terms of practicalities, is I like to talk to them about the daily rhythm that they have, the structure of their day, and that is not just working on things, but it could be exercise, it could be what they're learning, who they're reaching out to, what they're reflecting about a healthy balance of those things. And then if you're on a notice period, if you're still in the notice period, just thinking about how can I use that time sort of wisely for, you know, networking or coaching conversations and so on. And then to shift, once you are away from the business, to think about the new structure that you're living in, the short-term wins. You know, maybe today is the day you're going to update the CV. You know, tomorrow might be the day where you have an exploratory conversation or take an online course or whatever it happens to be. In terms of all the things that we've been talking about, it's about these small short-term wins help to rebuild that confidence and help you to move from sort of the understandable feelings and emotions into something more practical and concrete.
It's building blocks, isn't it? And it's just building it gradually. When I was listening to you both speak, and then I was thinking about one of the questions I sometimes will ask people is, well, what's consuming your energy? Where are you using your energy? Where do you need to use your energy? The next question I've got, I'm unusually for this. I'm going to share mine on this one, if I might. Is what's the single most important mindset shift that helped you personally after redundancy? And after I was made redundant, I many years ago now, thankfully, but I saw Michael Caine, the actor, on Parkinson, and in this interview, Michael Caine was asked, I hear this expression called "use the difficulty" that you use. What do you mean by that? And Caine explains that as a young actor, he was in a show, and it was part scripted, part improvised. So in rehearsals, they were really exploring their characters, and on one scene there was a couple on stage who were having an argument, and it got quite overheated with the passion and the tension of this the story, but also them improvising. And one of them got so angry that they threw a chair, and it landed in the doorway where Michael Caine was supposed to make his entrance. And the director's shouting at him with a few expletives, "Get on the stage." And he says, "I can't." And he said, "What do you mean you can't?" He said, "There's a chair in the way." And the director shouts, "Use the difficulty." And he said, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, if it's a comedy, fall over it. If it's a thriller, pick it up and smash it against the wall. Use the difficulty. Use the difficulty that's in front of you." And he said he's taken that all the way through his life. His difficulty was he was never very good at changing his accent. So it didn't matter whether he was a German officer or an American, he would always have a Cockney accent. And I thought, this is great. And that was probably the biggest mindset shift for me, was I think, right, okay, how can I use the difficulty in front of me as a force of positivity? What about yourself, Trevor? What would be the sort of the mindset?
Well, I think it came in the redundancy that I had that was less exciting, if you like, because I was not the one where I was about to resign anyway, but the other one. I found that it came with the mindset shift came with the way I viewed the prospect of not having a paid employment job, if you like, and I had always up till that point regarded, paid employment as the only form of being, if you like, that I would be employed, and therein lay my form of security. And I realized that actually the greatest security that I could ever have in that situation was to be able to determine my own fate. So I had this moment where I just decided, I made a conscious decision that I would become self-employed. And so I did that, and I did that successfully for about 18 months or so. I did then get approached to do a job, which I then went back in to do. But it was a great liberator to know that, in a way, control or self-control can sometimes come through determining your own fate, not necessarily who pays you or what organization that you're in. And that was a big mindset shift for me.
Brilliant. Ushulai, what about yourself?
So I'm going to start with what you shared, Dean. And I want to say this is exactly what I share with my clients. That is, let's not have the victim mentality, but victor. So not asking the question, why me? Why me? Because that only puts you down. Asking the question, what is next for me? So it's the mindset change. And also, if the role is disappeared, my value is still there. Nothing has changed in me as a person. So understanding that is definitely the key to deal with this. I was going to add one more thing to add to what Trevor said, but it skipped my mind. When I think of it, I'll share it.
You know it's going to come to you just as we finish, don't you? If that happens, you're able to add it into the chat on the link.
Oh, yes, I remember. Got it. I remember when Trevor said self-employed, look at the opportunities in the unknown.
Yeah.
Unlimited opportunities in the unknown or uncertainty. So just changing the mindset, what could be out there for me now this happened.
Yeah, brilliant. Another comment that came in, or Alison's on the case today, but a great comment from her. Energy is key as a proxy for resilience. Focus on what gives you energy and limit the drainers where possible. I hope, Alison, you're not talking about me when you say the drainers. Before we conclude our time today, always like to finish with some tips. So some top tips for resilience after redundancy. How can we keep moving? Ushulai.
All right. You know, there's a saying in Turkish, I'm going to translate that into English, and that is, there is an abundance in movement. This is exactly what I like to share with the audience here, because opportunity rarely arrives when we sit still. Opportunity most of the time meets with us when we're in motion. So even the small steps we take every day lets us know, to start with, that we're still learning, growing, progressing, and ready for the next move. So my top tip is move, move, move.
Brilliant. Trevor.
Wow. Right. That's great. And I would say my top tip is about the gift of curiosity, about this, that you have this time now to actually think about your curiosity. What are you genuinely curious about in terms of the people that you're meeting, the skills that you want to develop, that you've actually got this moment in time. You know, maybe you were too busy when you were sort of working in the narrow confines of your job to think about these things. You've actually got this moment to think about things. It's actually to move from understanding the shock or emotions you may be feeling, but moving on in your time to actually start to think about this as the gift of curiosity and what the opportunities that this may present may be.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, some really good tips there. Thank you both for those. We are nearly on time. So anything either of you would like to add to our discussion from what we've been saying at all?
I would just add that the way it is sometimes portrayed, particularly as it's a company that may be making you, or an organization that may be making you redundant, it can feel like an ending, but it shouldn't be looked at that way. I think when handled well, it is a bit of a beginning for you personally, and it gives you a chance to explore new avenues and new options. As Liz has just said, to focus on what's next, not what's lost.
Yeah, there's that old cliche about, as one door closes, another one opens. I think, from what both of you said, it's about saying, well, okay, well, what do I want that door to look like? And actually deciding, well, what do I want? Yes, there is what do I need, but what do I want? What's going to give me energy? What am I going to really enjoy doing? And if you do have that opportunity to search through and think about, you know, what your strengths are, to think, okay, well, how do my skills transfer to something else? So you are making informed decisions, which helps you to stay in control, doesn't it? So
yeah. And I want to share that. Stop worrying, just put yourself fully in and let it go.
All I've got in my head is you saying move. So thank you both for really bringing some energy to a subject that for a lot of people drains energy. So thank you for that. It's been really lovely to spend some time with you both. So keep the conversation going, everybody, on LinkedIn, because I'm sure lots of people will be able to add their comments to this. But I will say a bye from all of us for now, and we'll let you know when our next session is. I think we're planning one for before the end of the year in December, so we will publish details of that in due course. Thank you, both of you, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.